So, hello and welcome to the 1% podcast. Today we have the legend that is Mr. Andy Taylor on the podcast. By all accounts, well, we just chatting offline. I think Andy's currently smashing life. And I've been working with him for about 9 months or so, give or take, and he's just finishing up working with us in the 1%. He's got an amazing story, amazing journey, quite transformational. And I think what you hear from him will be really, really powerful. Often the typical story of like work life, flat out, really busy, loads going on. But then often not being able to see the wood for the trees and really taking ownership and doing some work on himself to show up as best he wants. And he's very much done that. But I want you to hear from the horse's mouth, not me. Before we crack on with that, Andy, do you want to just introduce yourself, who you are, what do you do, a bit about you?
Yeah, sure, Luke. Thanks for the invite. First off, Andy Taylor. I'm 43. Got a wife, two kids, a dog, chickens, all the components of a successful life. Some might say. And professionally, I co-own a logistics business. So pretty stressful, pretty full on between work and family and everything else.
Cool. And it's like, you're not to belittle that, but the usual story with lots of the gents I work with and anyone watching and listening, probably it's like, yep, I can relate to that on a multitude of levels. Maybe not the chickens, but most of it. Yeah. Me and my wife keep saying that we want to get them, but living in southwest London, they just get savaged by foxes. I think so. It's probably not a wise
Yeah,
idea.
not quite the place.
Yeah. So on that note, let's kick off and have a chat about you and your story, Andy, because that's why we're here. So I think the best place to start, if we rewind probably about 8-9 months into the past, I think you'd seen maybe some of my content on LinkedIn, perhaps even maybe a post or two of some of my clients. You reached out and said, look, can we have a chat? We had a chat and we decided to do some work together. You joined the program and process. What was going on with you back then that made you sort of decide to reach out and have a chat with somebody like me about, doing some kind of personal development work?
Yeah, I think probably been stalking, following you for just over a year, I think, before deciding to sort of take the
Yeah.
plunge and looked at it and kept thinking, I know what to do. I can do that myself. I don't need to spend the money. I can crack on. And then I think the turning point was around about November last year, where you put something on LinkedIn. It really resonated. I'd asked for a chat. We got together. I think at the time, I was just in a place where I was working really hard, felt like life was good, and it was, but I just didn't have that sense of fulfillment. Yeah, kind of worked hard, was a bit of a perfectionist to my own detriment, really, and would self-sabotage when things weren't going right. Yeah,
I think what you're saying there is, again, it's a common narrative, right? So, and it's that we discussed this just a second before we start hitting record. It's that, well, it's all great on paper. I've got everything I want in life, but I don't quite feel as good as I would like to, or as I would want to. And the sort of dichotomy of, well, like, why have I got all the trappings of everything I want, but I don't feel that great? And you mentioned there, I guess, the perfectionist sort of self-sabotage, which is where you might try and do some things to correct that, but then because you want it all to be absolutely right, when it doesn't go that way, you're like, oh, fuck everything, and just it all gets thrown in the bin, and so you end up spinning your wheels, and so it can be very frustrating. And I think I remember you said, you're like that phrase, "Well, I think I know what I need to do, but I just don't end up doing it, and why not?" And that, for someone who's quite driven, very successful from a business perspective, it can be really frustrating because you're like, well, I'm pretty intelligent. Like, I think I know what I need to do, but I'm not doing it. And I'm not consistent. And why? And so you get into this sort of like negative feedback loop.
yeah, really, and that was me down to a T. I could be really good, and then something would blow me off course, and then it wasn't disaster. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't living in the gutter or anything like that, but it was just wasn't keeping up the good habits that I knew deep down I needed to. And I think one thing you said to me right at the start was everyone needs a coach or a mentor or someone to help them and hold them to account. And when you said it, I'm not sure it stuck then, but it definitely stuck afterwards. Yeah. So yeah, it's been quite the journey.
Yeah. Well, and I'm obviously going to be very biased in terms of needing a coach, right? Because I'm a coach, right? So I'm gonna say that. But I think the reason I say something like that is because having an external party that can hold up a mirror and at least help challenge you, your thinking, and empower you to, I guess, show up better. that's what it's all about. I actually had a chat with another gen before we started hitting record here, Andy, about potentially joining the program, and I was saying to him that like it, ultimately it's having a process where you can be sort of challenged on your thinking and look at yourself slightly differently. That's ultimately, I think, where you get the change because if you don't make a change, you're not going to change. And so if nothing changes, nothing changes. And so you can try and rely on friends and family and maybe even your missus to help with that. But that doesn't really work. And I think what we all want ultimately, and I think from a coaching perspective, and this is what I was sharing with this gentleman, is that actually we want to be able to be accountable to ourselves. And when you're in that feedback loop you were talking about, where you try some stuff, it doesn't work, and you don't feel like you're doing what you say, and so you're not self accountable. And so, what a coach helps with, I think, is helps a good coach is breed that self accountability. Now, you can have any coach shout at you and make you do things, but then we're not really addressing the fundamentals. And so, if you empower someone to become accountable to yourself, then you can sort of run with things solo, right, or in the wild, as we were saying.
Yeah, and I think one of the great things in the process for me, Luke, is the structure of it's pretty. It's really well structured. You know what you're supposed to be doing, and build on it and layer the habits and everything else. But the times when life comes up and kicks you, and you've got to adapt, both with me and with the other gents on the program, that ability to adapt and go right, okay, well, just strip it back to the fundamentals. What can you do? How can you tackle the problem? How can you find a way around it? Was great because for me, it was all or nothing. I was either absolutely perfect, doing everything I possibly could do, or oh no, I failed to do that, and then I'm back to square one again.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head for me there, Andy, which is what it's all about, which is that resilience piece. And so and again, that's what allows you to sort of work on that quote unquote perfectionist mindset because like we said, life is going to give you the finger sometimes and things are going to impact you and work's going to be difficult and life is going to happen, both good and bad. Um, but if we've got the perfectionist mindset, well, I've got these things I need to do, be that habits, behaviors, how I show up, what I do at work. And then if life impacts that and I can't do those, well, then I can't do any of it and then fuck everything and you throw it all out the window. That feels bad because you haven't done the stuff. Then you feel like you're backtracking. Whereas actually, if you go, "Oh, just let's just take a step back. This is frustrating." Well, rather than throwing it all out, what can I do? And actually, what have I done? And then in a washout sometimes afterwards, you look back and go, "Well, that wasn't perfect, but I did that, that, and that, and I wouldn't have done that before." And actually, if we look at it, maybe next time I can do this. Well, then you keep that forward momentum. You don't go back. And like you said, it's like and you can kind of play that game anywhere. It's like, well, what's happened and what can I do? And if we do that, it's more empowering because ultimately you've got more agency around what you're doing, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think the other thing that I really took from it, Luke, was reflecting on what you have done and what's gone well, what's not gone to it. And actually in reflecting back, whereas it was just go, 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 all or nothing, on to the next thing, on to the next thing, on to the next thing. I was forgetting about the sort of stack of evidence of things that I had done and all the good stuff and just focusing on the small percentage that might have gone pear-shaped like it does. And that actually made a big difference in terms of getting into a cycle of, okay, everything's not perfect, got these things to work on or improve on, but actually there's a lot of good that I am doing that is happening.
Yeah. There's that sort of concept. I think we shared it in some of the calls and stuff. It's there's a book on it actually called The Gap and the Gain, and
Mm,
the idea being that most of us put ourselves in the gap, which is I've got this idealistic version of what I want, where I want to be, who I want to be, and then um, I'm going to try and achieve that. And then if you don't live up to that, you're always in the gap, right? Because you're not actually ever going to live up to it. So all you're doing is looking at the things you're not achieving and how far you're not there. Whereas if you flip that and the concept is, well, I mean, the gain, it's like, well, okay, well, I've got somewhere I'm going to, but like, where am I now compared to where I was? And you do that, you go, oh, bloody hell. Like you just described, there's so much. Now, there might be a couple of things you miss, and okay, we can look at those and adapt them, and that's what part of personal growth is about as well. Well, because you have missed one or two things doesn't negate the 10 things that you've done. Or like we're just saying, I've just had the most stressful work experience of my life. Well, I didn't drink every night and I was on top of my exercise and I was still a bit present with the kids
yeah,
and I was able to manage my time a bit better. But I
yeah,
didn't do this and this. Yeah, but all those things are better. And so actually, arguably, you dealt with it much better. So actually, It's huge progress. But if we're looking at it with the wrong mindset, we can often ignore that. Then that's what ends up tripping us up. It's not the situation, it's our perception of it. So we go, "Oh, fuck it all."
Yeah.
You know, the analogy we talk about, which is the perfectionist one, which is you're driving down the road, you're like, "Oh, shit," you get a puncture. So you jump out and stab the other 2 tires. It's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And so, what we're talking about here is metaphorically getting out that repair kit, working out what's happened and keeping going, rather than stabbing the 3 tires and having to call the AA truck and having to go back home. Do you see what I mean? If we stretch the metaphor, you know?
I think
Um,
the Ferrari story is my favourite one in that I've heard in the 9 months.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So what then, as we sit today, Andy, like, you know, and you've kind of off in the wild, you've now done a load of work on yourself. Like what would you say have been the key constituent parts that are allowing you to feel quite different from where that place you were, which was that perfectionist mindset, all or
yeah.
nothing, like hard charging and then feeling a bit like, oh, you know, I'm not achieving what I want. Whereas now, very much not. What's gone into that?
I think the main thing's been finding habits that stick, which isn't about doing everything religiously every day perfectly, or that concept of everyday-ish really resonated with me in the program. So you know what good is, and you're aiming to get there, but it's good in the context of your life. That's been great for me in terms of I've got a framework day to day. I think a lot around being connected and present, be it at home, you know, most importantly, be it at work, be it with friends. I've come a hell of a long way from there. I would be there previous to this, but I wasn't actually there.
Mhm.
Learning, not yeah, learning how to be connected again. You know, has been a massive thing. And I think the other one is just having the agency, recognizing that I'm in control of all this, even when things are going wrong. You know, I can control how I respond to it. So I guess they've been the three big things, Lou.
The agency one for me is really powerful because ultimately when you recognize that and see that you have got the ability to choose how you want to react to a situation, and you might have a situation that you do not want, that's unpleasant, that's not nice, and none of that is not true, right? But then you go, well, fuck everything. He's a prick, X, Y, Z, and that's it. And you come home and you shout at everyone because let's say it's a work thing. That's a choice to behave like that. Or you could go, that's stressful. What can I do? How can I decompress and work out how better to respond to this situation? And then ensuring that when I come home, I'm calm. Like the actual thing that's happened is no different. It's you and your ability with how you deal with it, and that's it. And then the bit you said about the being connected, I think if you are the royal you, right? Running around hard charging, trying to get everything done as best you can, but not really taking a step back or time to take stock of what you're doing and how you're showing up. When you're busy and stressed, you kind of just take it all on yourself, and everyone else they know that I'm stressed and they know that it's hectic and it's difficult, and so you try and take that burden on yourself, which you know it comes from a well-intentioned place, but then actually, what you do is you create an island out of yourself, and you're not actually allowing other people to connect with you. Because to be honest, who the fuck are you to make an assessment of whether someone can help you or not? That's on them, not you. Whereas actually, if you go, you know what, I'm a bit stressed, I'm struggling a little bit, this is difficult, and for lots of guys like us, it's hard to do that. But in doing that, you allow more connection with your friends, with your wife, with your partner, whoever. So actually, far from that being weak, it's the opposite, isn't it? You actually feel
Mm,
more connected. But I
yeah.
think finally, that comes from what you said at the start of the three things you listed was the habits. It's like to be non-reactive, take a step back. Where do I have agency? How can I approach this? To then be able to be vulnerable, sounds a bit wanky, and
Mm,
share and be where you're at. That's predicated on how you're taking care of yourself, what you're doing every day, all those habits and behaviors. If you are stressed, not managing your headspace, drinking, you know, not exercising, your ability to be agentic, calm, and do that is
yeah.
just so diminished. And so it all sort of has to fit together. Does that make sense? And I think the latter two parts come out as an emergent property of the former bit of
Mm,
taking care of yourself. Well, that's how I see it anyway.
yeah. I'd not thought about it that way, but it does knit together. And at the start for me, I wouldn't say I didn't realize what I was getting into, but I, it took a while to see how every some of the things that I saw as small things actually knitted together to have the overall impact on my quality of life.
Yeah, and something I said to you and I say to everyone at the start, some of the basic habits right at the beginning. I'm like, and especially because you're fit, you do a lot, you train a lot, and especially around the more practical aspect of some of the things. I say, look, mate, you might have to part your ego a bit. 'Cause this isn't a lot. It's like, for example, it's like getting some steps in. It's like, what the fuck's 10,000 steps? I can do that easily. Well, you're not doing it, are you? So how about you try doing it? And then you go, well, what impact is this going to have? And at first you think, What's that? What's that about?" But then when you see it instill over a long term and compound, and go, well, it's not just 10,000 steps blindly. It's like I could achieve that. Maybe like get to the end of my day, I've only gone 2,000. Fuck you, Luke. I'm going to do laps in my living room. But then we realize, oh, what's the point in that? And then you go, well, okay, well, maybe the reason I can't do 10,000 steps a day is because I'm doing back to back meetings. Okay, I'm running my business, but I'm actually showing up as my best there. Well,
Yeah.
maybe I need to think about, I'll leave my desk for 15, 20 minutes at lunchtime. Not only that, though, I preach about balance to all my team and how they need to be structured and not work continuously. So, but I'm the one who sat at my desk. So maybe I need to show that. So one little thing of 10,000 steps can actually have a much larger impact for a lot of other reasons. And so it's not just do the thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it really does. And can only can only give my perception on it, but I think the quality of my experience now, in terms of how I show up, how I get along with other people, is far different than it was at certain times previously.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I think that is that thing we've been talking about, which is, I don't know if I've said it right now, but life is going to happen, work and whatever else, and it's going to buffet you around. But then I think if you're taking care of yourself and you are agentic, you're as present as you can be in the moment, be at work, at home with other people, well, then your lived experience of life feels better and richer. So even when it's been stressful, that was a shit week, I'm all right. I think that's kind of the magic, isn't it? Because we said this offline before we spoke, but um, if you go through life expecting it all to be easy and then it not, you're setting yourself up for a fall because, like, spoiler alert, it isn't. And so accept the fact that things are difficult and going to happen. Not all the time. We don't want hardship, but it's going to happen. But so then when it happens, we're not surprised and we're able to deal with it as best we can. Well, then that's a better place to be. And so that's where you can have what is a quote unquote stressful situation, but can feel okay within it. And for me, I think that's it. And so, and then when things are good, you feel good anyway because you're there, present, and able to. So, so then you can have a stressful thing happen, cope with it, feel good, and then have a nice thing happen off the back of it, and not that cannibalize how you're feeling about yourself.
Yeah. And I think the first thing I wrote down when I was thinking about talking to you today was self-esteem. It was something we talked about right at the outset. And I think that's one of the things that you I certainly improved dramatically from being a part of this program with you, Luke, but without necessarily realizing that's what I was going into it for. You know, that in the past, things would go wrong. I blame myself. You know, instead of going, well, here's all the good things I am doing. I can learn from these things, but actually, I should be proud of what I'm doing, what I'm achieving, and what I'm trying to work on. And it massive life changing. I can't put it any other way than that.
Well, it's amazing to hear that, and it's great to hear that, and I would agree from seeing your journey. I totally get that. And you're the other sort of gentleman when we first spoke, and all your friends would have gone, Andy's got decent self esteem, high self esteem because of who you are. And that's not to say you hadn't, but there was elements where you probably didn't, right? And so
Mm,
it's not we've done some one magic thing. Oh, I want good self esteem. I'll do that one thing. It's like, well, I think that comes again as an emergent property from taking better care of yourself, making decisions. Oh,
mm.
that was challenging. Well, I know normally I'd have shouted and kicked off, but I didn't. And and so you've got again that expectation of how you would like to be, and if you're constantly missing that internally, it doesn't feel good because
Yeah,
you've got an expectation of where you want to be. Whereas actually, if we start to align that and go, well, I'm not perfect, but that went well and that did different, and oh, I didn't just say fuck it there. Well, then you start to feel better about yourself. Oh, I was open then and told her I was struggling a bit to my missus, and she listened, and I feel better for that, and I listened to her. And so over the course of things, all that starts to feel better. So then you feel, because self esteem is about self belief and how you believe in yourself and how you feel about yourself. You'll feel better because your actions are better. Now, do we get it all right perfectly? Are we both saints here? Are we fuck? We're both completely fallible and get stuff wrong. And I don't want it to sound like that to anyone. Like, aren't we fucking great? But I think the more we can be present and engaged and aware of ourselves and how we behave and what we do, it allows you to challenge and think about it. So then you do generally feel better a lot of the time. And then even if you haven't showered yourself in glory sometimes, which you don't, you can go, well, hold up a second, what went off there? And if we then interrogate and
yeah,
challenge that, you can learn
yeah,
from it, right?
yeah, yeah. I think the classic. uh, Before that was, you get something wrong, but then you talk about it for a week instead of going, "Do you know what? Put my hands up. I've got that wrong. I made a mistake. Can we talk about it? Can we kind of draw a line and sand, move forward, and away you go." And again, it feeds into that quality of life and quality of lived experience.
Yeah. And if you do that, like, because what can happen is if you don't do that bit and hold your hand up when you know you've done something wrong, you can sort of end up walking around resenting lots of people and being pissed off and all the
Yeah,
rest of it, and that doesn't feel great either. Because also you sort of know deep down, yeah, I messed up, but I'm trying to be on my moral high horse here for whatever the reason is, right? Whereas after you just let that go, you're like, oh, okay, that's all right. I feel better, you know. Um, well, look, Andy, I don't want to cannibalize too much of your time because, as we discussed, I know you're very, very busy. But it's like I said, it's been a pleasure working with you. It's been amazing to see you and your journey. Let's say someone's sat watching or listening to this and they're kind of resonating with what we were saying at the start, right? Maybe not feeling the best. Looks like I've got it all, but I don't quite feel like I do. Not content. And look, regardless whether this is to engage with me or a coach, but someone in that situation, now you know how you feel now, having done a load of work on yourself. What would you say to someone there who's a bit like, oh, not feeling great? And yeah, like what would you say to yourself back then?
didn't know this back then and when I started, but I think the things for me are, it's about keeping commitments to yourself and to others, and the positive cycle and effect that comes from that. I think a few gents have said it, but the group is actually the magic, especially for me. The first few weeks, months, hated the idea of it, then got into it and thought it was amazing because everyone's going through the same problems. And if they're not, you can kind of relate, resonate, hopefully have an input, just have some support from people who are not your direct family or colleagues or friends, but actually care what's going on with you. And I think the last thing probably linked to that and some of the things that happen subsequently is actually helping other people, helping yourself and helping other people. I think you don't appreciate it, but again, everyone's going through it, and be it in the program or outside of it, if you can help someone else from the place they're in, then that's an amazing thing that I was really, really proud of.
Yeah, and you should be. And I remember our first chat when I said the group. I think you because you followed me for a while. We had a chat, and I think you almost made up in your mind. I think you were pretty confident you wanted to do it. I explained. Then I was at group, and maybe you missed that in what you've read. And you're like, ugh. And I was like,
Yeah,
you were like, I was like, deal maker. Nope, nope. And then I was like, honestly, Andy, and I say this before, I was like, the guys who are the most reticent about the group are the ones who end up loving it the most, generally. And you were the same. And But what that is like you said about helping others. Maybe there's an assumption that, or maybe what it might be. Some of the assumption is what can I learn from others, or it's my problems. I just need to sort me out. Other people aren't going to be able to help. The bit that misses, I think you now realise, is what you just said there about helping others. Like you don't need to help others by even helping them. You just saying, "Fuck me, I had a shit week. I was stressed. I did this. That happened." That if someone sees that and that's just as powerful as going, "Oh, do this, this, this." And I think we or you, the royal, you don't realize that until you experience it, and you go, "Ah." Like there's a gent, I won't say his name, but the gent we were just talking about offline that um, his first call, he was a bit reticent about the group as well. And then the first call, we went round Robin. I got to him and said, "So, how's it going?" And his shoulders dropped. He went, "It's not just me." That's literally, it was like, that's what he said. And
yeah,
everyone nodded. We're like, "Yep." And then there's just
yeah,
power in that because look, there can all be this all first world problems. We've all got great jobs and it's all fine, but we're not feeling good. We are struggling. We haven't got a roadmap for this stuff. When you see other guys who are on paper, LinkedIn, whatever, successful, doing it right, and then they're struggling a bit or they're being open about the things that are happening, and they've all got shit at home, you're like, I thought it was just me with this stuff. Is that no, it's not. And not like we're wallowing in self pity, quite the opposite. It's just helpful and empowering to hear that. But then you see those same people changing it, working through, addressing it. You go, well, if he can fucking do it, I can do it. And that's empowering, you know? I mean, I'm biased, of course, but like it really is.
yeah, yeah. But it's the principle, Luke, rather than being biased about you and the way it's facilitated. I'm not saying it because I'm on commission, but it's an amazing thing, and seeing people come out the other side a week after and they're thriving, or they've actually moved on and worked their way through it. It's great to see. You're kind of cheering them on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
thank
But
you, Andy.
That's all right.
It's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Like I said, and I've really enjoyed working with you, and you deserve all the success you've had. And like I said, in a great way, the Andy who's chatting to me now is in a very different place from the Andy I spoke to, but it's because of the work you've done on yourself, and it's awesome to see. And I know you'll continue to thrive. On that note, if anyone is watching, they are interested in seeing about how I can help or what I can do, drop me a note in the comments or a DM. Failing that, Andy, it's been a pleasure, and we'll see you guys next week. Thank you.
Thank you.